And we're live. Hello, hello, hello. If someone can in the comments let us know that you can see and hear us, that would be great. Amy Miller, hello from Durham. Doris, hello, keto friends from Michigan. Sounds great. Thank you very much, Beth. Appreciate that. Hi, I'm Casey Durango of Go Keto with Casey. And to my right is Eric Westman of Duke University, the OG of clinical implementation of the low-carb ketogenic diet for the treatment of obesity and type 2 diabetes.
What does that mean again?
OG, original gangster. You're like, you were doing it way long ago.
It's a good thing.
Okay, so for those of you who have not joined us before, Crowdcast is a pretty cool platform. If you look on, I don't know where it shows for what device you're using, but there is a speech bubble with a question mark in it. If you have a question, a comment, an observation, something that you want to make sure is noticed, please click on that bubble and type it in there, and people can upvote your question, and then you can jump to that question on replay if you watch it on the replay. Also, things go by pretty quickly, so we'll do our best to keep up. Also, now Dr. Westman and I have not discussed this previously, but there is a way that we can invite you on stage.
Let's do it.
Let's try that. So we won't do it without anyone's permission. I believe there's a raise your hand option to let us know that you'd like to come on stage to share your story. This is getting closer to what we did in real life, asking people to come down and share their stories. If you don't want to, that is fine. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is showing up for a support group meeting, and we don't have to spill our guts. Okay, that having been said, there's no format. It's kind of an open discussion. I always like to ask Dr. Westman if there's anything that he's learned recently that he feels like we need to know, that maybe is changing the course of what he's been teaching all these years, any new information. And also we like to ask, and I might put some polls in, and Dr. Westman, you are co-host, so you can create polls as well. That having been said, Dr. Westman, first of all, how are you, sir?
Doing great. And you?
Very, very well. Been back at the gym.
Nice.
Let me tell you what, dumbbells and barbells are different than the total gym. I will say that right now. Plus,
it's a
little bit more intense.
The
glidey thing, which is great. It served a really great purpose. I'm trying to build core strength, lean mass, because we all can use that, but particularly over a certain age, and that's my goal now. Okay, enough about me. So, jump in, Dr. Westman.
Well, I've learned a ton. Have we talked since the Florida meeting?
No, you referenced a comment to me about it, but nothing in depth.
Oh, yeah. And then had a 2-hour grand rounds with Professor Tim Noakes on Saturday.
Wow.
The exercise guru. So where to begin? So in Florida, so just in short, there was an entire day devoted to sugar and processed food addiction. And if you have never seen Food Junkies, it's a great book. And there's actually a company now that will, for a small fee, be available 24/7 wherever you want in your house on Zoom. So that basically, let's say you're ready to have a candy bar and you run to the Zoom and you go, no, I don't want to do it. Help me. They hire people all over the world.
Wow.
So there's someone, in India in the middle of the night, I'm not sure where, ready to help you.
Wow, it's like a totally a 12-step program, but your sponsor is always there.
Always there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical when I heard it's Joan Ithland. Joan is a PhD, and she edited the textbook on processed food addiction. And I'd say I was a little skeptical, and I think that people would sign up, but they actually have a good following so far. They're keeping the price point pretty low. And so, yeah, if you need someone to be peering into your home, available 24/7, well, it is exactly the 12-step sponsor that you would, in the old days, you would
Mhm,
call, right?
mhm.
Yeah,
That is, innovative. It's making the contemporary tools
yeah,
do what needs, and this is what support is about. As we have often said, Dr. Westman, the protocol is simple, which is not to mean that it's easy, because food is something, if we think about it, I don't know about your family, but most families that I know of, my family of origin, my family of choice, you have a baby, and I breastfed all of our children. And after that, it all becomes about eating and how many ounces they're going to get of something, and then eating, and then it's the 3 meals a day. And we're now at multi-generational eating habits that aren't based on anything other than this this dynamic of 3 meals a day and two snacks, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So we can be forgiven if we find it difficult to break these habits, because they're from the time we're about a year old.
yeah. Um, so that was the Florida meeting. Well, it was just really good. I saw Nina Teicholz was there, and she has the Nutrition Coalition, of course. And then Rob Siwas, the what does he call himself again? Sugar addiction doctor, I think. Rob, Rob I joked with him. He's too smart to be a surgeon. I mean, he breaks all the stereotypes about being a surgeon. So, I hope, if you need to, carb addiction doc. Thank you, Angie. Yeah, he's brilliant. But even for me, sometimes I can't follow, because he's just so smart. Oh, so this time he talked about, if you grew up in a parenting style of this versus a parenting style of that, and I'm just like, what was I? Anyway, so but that's great. It's always great to see him. He's on the board of the Society of Metabolic Health
And
Practitioners.
and he has a little bit of a personal story, right? I mean, he's not a Slim Jim and has no issues.
Well, he offends a lot of people because he gets up and says, "I'm a fatty," with that South African accent. He makes no bones about calling people heavy, or a weight issue. He'll just say, if you're a fat person, you have these issues. I know, because I'm a fatty. Anyway, um, always great to see him. And then, gosh, the Unwins came over from the UK.
Wow.
David and Jen, who are a husband-wife team, and they're really, really kind of cool people, because I finally learned that Dr. Unwin is in a sort of GP practice. He's been treating the same people for over 15 years. And so when someone comes to him and he says, you ought to do this, they basically do it, because he's, well, as much as a trusting doctor can tell you, and
Mhm.
you follow it. So very different than my practice, where I just met people today for the first time, and some of them knew the name of my firstborn child, and others didn't know who I was. So um, but Jen, Dr. Unwin's wife, is a psychologist, and they focus on sugar addiction as well. That's why they came to the meeting. And then Dr. Vera Tarman from Toronto, who wrote the book Food Junkies. And then Nicole Avina, who is the researcher of small animals, so like rats and mice, and has done research to show that sugar hits the same reward center in the brain as nicotine and dopamine reward center, so cocaine, that sort of thing. So it was really a one of a kind sort of session to have the whole gamut from basic science, mice, to surgeons who talk like sugar addiction doctors. So but that was great. And it's fun to get out again and to see people. And um, there were a few people who came up to me with remarkable stories. Like, I mean, I can't tell you. If I told you, I'd have to kill you, sorts of things. And I encouraged them to write up the information, send them to me. We'll try to publish it. And I guess the switching gears to kind of unbelievable stuff. Tim Noakes is a physician in Cape Town, South Africa, and for years was the expert in running marathons. Wrote a book that you would read, and it said you should eat carbs before running a marathon. And he now is flipped, and he says you shouldn't eat carbs. Go at least 6 months before you run without carbs. You'll optimize your fat burning. And he is now working with 2 groups in the U.S. with doing research, and there are now 2 publications basically saying that you can run on fat for fuel at levels of sprinting and levels of exercise that was never thought to be possible. So they're basically rewriting the chapter textbook figures, that have been taught for decades.
Did he not coin the term carb loading?
Well, I think he borrowed it from some other people, but yeah.
I see.
And actually that history is all written in the background section of these papers. And so basically, they've known kind of anecdotally or in the field that the runners can run without eating carbs and do great. But now there are publications just in the last 2 years that really nail down the fact that you can burn fat at super high levels of intensity of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you could be a rugby player, a football player, sprinting and then stopping, that sort of thing, without any worry, now based on the science, which is pretty amazing.
That's cool. And I know you probably are aware, my husband's a cyclist, so we're kind of cycling oriented. Chris Froome, who won the Tour de France, which is 2,200 miles of cycling over the course of 3 weeks, up the Alpe d'Huez and everything else. And he's essentially keto. He has a little bit of tweaking, but he's in this fat burning state. So there's very little more endurance than that. So that's really good that I think if I've learned from you that the science kind of the legitimate accepted science, the peer reviewed stuff kind of sometimes trails behind what is happening in the field.
Experience. Yeah. Well, and I learned it some years ago with that first movie, Serial Killers, Cereal. There's like a list of documentary films that I can rattle off for those of you who've never watched these. Serial Killers, Cereal. Donald, the guy who wrote it, is lying in a coffin with cornflakes around him. Right? So Serial Killer and the Serial Killers 2. So Serial Killers 1 is Prof. Noakes ripping out the textbook chapter. I was wrong. You should not eat carbs. Serial Killers 2 is the story of Sami Inkinen and his wife getting in the rowboat, rowing from San Francisco to Hawaii.
That's crazy.
You get to go to Steve Finney's house and see his tomatoes. He said, I asked him about that. He said, "Oh yeah, those really grew really well." But if anyone has a question of whether you can exercise on a low carb keto diet, then the Serial Killers and Serial Killers 2 are really kind of required watching.
And of course, Jeff Volek has really studied this with endurance, some cyclists, but mostly it's runners, isn't it? Like the super marathoners?
Yeah, well, and Jeff is a co-author on some of these papers that
cool.
Prof. Noakes talked about actually in recreational runners too. And they find this phenomenon that the LDL cholesterol goes up and the HDL goes up, the triglycerides go down, and these are super healthy people.
Mm-hmm. A question I'm going to ask, because it was actually asked of me, and I said I'm going to try to remember to ask Dr. Westman this. This was a topic of testing for ketones. right? And this person wondered, they've gotten kind of back into a little bit more intense um, resistance training, exercising, things like this. Do you know whether ketone readings will tend to be higher after exercising as opposed to before exercising? And does it matter?
Yeah, I would ask if I'm not sure it matters.
Okay.
No, I don't have a whole lot of people who are measuring ketones in my clinic because I don't recommend it. I want to keep things as simple as
Mhm.
possible. But certainly, I think if you got on a keto mojo listserv of some kind, or a Facebook group or something, this is a machine where you can monitor your blood ketones. I'm sure people are talking about that a lot. I bet it varies and changes. It's not always like, sometimes the blood glucose is highest in the morning when you haven't eaten. Sometimes, so things may not. Sometimes the blood sugar goes up when you're fasting, when you're not eating anything.
And this
And
this upsets people because we've gotten in the habit of chasing all kinds of numbers, right? Between the number on the scale and blood readings and continuous glucose monitors. Um, so what are your thoughts on that? On the numbers that we have access, my Apple Watch can read things that are unbelievable.
yeah, well, you want to just use caution. Don't freak out. There's an old saying in the medical world that, if the person's sitting up and breathing and eating, even if the EKG is flatline, you don't go in and give CPR. Right? So any, any flatline would mean the guy's dead.
Right.
Yeah, so that it means the lead came off or something. So you always want to use common sense when you're looking at these things. And then, um, there's a saying in internal medicine that when in doubt, repeat the test. So if it doesn't seem right,
Mm.
you know, uh, sometimes these blood sugar readings are off 20%. That could be a difference between, 90
Is it
and
because the reading is off, the lab or the
yeah,
technology?
the
Okay,
technology. Yeah,
so we shouldn't freak.
yeah,
If you
and
otherwise feel well and it's not a trend that your blood sugars are in, I will say this. I had someone was talking to me. She was irritated because she was doing really strict for a month, and then she just went to the doctor, and her blood glucose, fasting blood glucose, was 101. I said, "Yeah." She said, "Wait a minute.
that's
I've been
good.
doing this really strictly, and my blood sugar should not be in the hundreds." I said, "Okay, okay,
Well,
difference."
you know, I have the experience of, in training, I was in the intensive care unit with people who were extremely sick, and we put these little tubes in the artery, not just the vein, but in the artery. They're called arterial lines, and it detected the pressure that the heart gave, the blood pressure, beat by beat, because you have this pressure gauge inside the artery. The heart's different, beat by beat. The blood
Even
pressure
the
is
heart, even the
even
heart.
well, the heart, so it's not a diesel engine.
Right, we are not automatons.
No, and part of how much it squeezes out has to do with how much it filled, and then what is the tube like? Is the tube relaxed? That's the artery. I think of like a hose.
Mhm.
An artery is like a hose, the aorta. It's kind of like that. And if it's relaxed, then the blood pressure will be lower. If you're under stress and it's not as relaxed, then it's going to be higher. And yeah, so, um, it can change. Or I want to just say that it's not a perfect machine. You
It
know,
is perfect. We are just trying to pull in information that we don't need to know necessarily. The analogy I always use is I don't take my temperature every day. If I think I might have a fever, I might take my temperature. Otherwise, I'm not going to give myself, you know,
yeah.
resuscitations if
Well,
I'm eating and walking around. Yeah.
the availability of that information is becoming easier and easier. I sometimes I wear my Apple Watch, sometimes I don't. And on days when I know I don't want to be distracted and like
Mhm.
worry, not only someone calls and um, although I do really like that if I'm on the weekend out and about, it's like Dick Tracy. I can talk to
Oh, Maxwell's smart. When are they gonna have, like, an Apple shoe? You could
them.
Okay, so we do want to encourage people to ask the questions, and we have 2 questions, if you don't mind us jumping to the Q&A
Not at
piece.
all.
By the
And
way, I got some feedback, I will have to say. Someone wrote a comment to me.
if we
It
were
seems
in person, we'd encourage you to come up front and
Yes, we would encourage you. And so and I honestly, I don't use this a lot, so if you wanna raise your hand, I think it's a little thing that has to jump up, and you would like to come share your story. Judy, I believe you're here from Hopkinton if you wanna come on camera. But anyway, I'll go back. Maybe I won't tell you the feedback I got. Okay. So questions. Here is, and this is pretty cool because you'll start to see the question in text here. Excuse me.
all right.
Isn't that
Whoa.
cool? My doctor has suggested to only eat at meals and have at least 4 hours in between with no snacking. She says this will help insulin resistance. What are your thoughts, Dr. Westman? This is from Ange.
So what are you supposed to eat at meals?
Uh,
What you eat at the meals is more important than the time between meals.
Excellent question. So you can eat every 4 hours, but it should not be steak fries and
Right.
a Daisy Queen, Dairy Queen.
It's
Well,
fascinating how it's almost like some people want to be told what to do, right? Exactly.
mhm,
And then there are those who want to tell you what to do exactly. And my teaching is it's more flexible. I don't really want to tell you exactly what to do because then you might become passive aggressive and then not do what I tell you to do. So I want you to figure out for yourself, when you're hungry, eat. When you're not, don't eat. And yeah, sometimes you have to figure out what hunger is. And I don't think everyone's the same.
mhm.
And the idea of intermittent fasting, meaning you don't eat for a while, is probably a good thing. I mean, there was fasting in every major religion as sort of a cleansing sort of phenomenon. Um, and I don't think you have to do that because when you're not eating carbs, you're basically getting the metabolic benefits of fasting. That's the fat burning.
And I think we have to know ourselves, don't you? Excuse me. Thanks, Ange. We're gonna done answering. Um, if someone has food issues, and some of us do, it's like once you start, the on button stays on. The pedals to the metal, and it's difficult to break. And if we recognize that about ourselves, if we, in my thinking, and for me personally, if I arbitrarily don't eat because I've decided that I'm going to eat in this feeding window, and I'm only going to eat between these hours, but I'm legit hungry 3 hours before the my window opens. I'm, for one thing, going to think about food. Like if I'm legit hungry, I'm going to think about food for 3 hours. And then when I start eating, I'm going to overshoot the mark. So to me, for myself, arbitrarily not eating if you're truly hungry makes no more sense than arbitrarily eating just because we were told to eat breakfast every day, or it's noon and we should eat, or we should eat every 4 hours. That doesn't make any sense. But you're right. Learning what hunger is a big challenge because there's this signal from our brain. Correct me when I'm wrong, if that ever happens. The signal from the brain when we're a sugar burner is we have to kind of keep loading the hopper with glucose because glucose isn't stored in the blood, or else you're a type 2 diabetic. Whereas if you're burning fat for fuel, we can go for longer, and it's actually more of a physical hunger, where when you're a sugar burner, it's more of a brain hunger saying, "Get me some more glucose." And this is very difficult. I know I went for decades without ever being actually hungry. I ate all the time.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, I remember someone even who almost was crying in the first visit, first time we met, in a good way, because she said, "I hate breakfast." You're the first doctor who told me I didn't have to eat breakfast. So really pretty much all her life, she's like, I don't know,
Eat this
40,
breakfast, the most
40 year
important meal
old.
of the
Yeah.
day.
Can you imagine every morning,
And this is another thing, the Clean Your Plate Club. So think
yeah,
of all the generations who children are sitting around and finish that food, but they didn't serve themselves the food. They didn't pile it on this big thing. Somebody else comes, not meaning any harm. My parents weren't trying to make me fat. I use the word fat. I describe myself as a former fatty because I'm also short. I do not take offense. I'm also, amblyopic. So, my eyes are screwed up. But anywho, you load up a plate to a person who didn't ask for it, and then you insist that they finish it. But we don't think of it in those terms.
yeah.
Okay, we have another question. This is from Roseanne. Good evening. Is there an optimal amount of protein a person should eat per meal? I've been told that under 35 grams isn't enough. Roseanne, we've had this conversation. Okay, in my opinion, now you'll get it from the expert.
Yeah, but well, so let's think about that. If you eat 3 meals a day and you're 35, that's what, 105 grams?
105 is like 4.5 ounces of protein.
If you eat 1 meal a day and it's 35, well, so it depends, right? Um, I'm always referring back to a classic paper. It was back, gosh, in the days of that first Atkins craze. Remember? It's 2003, 2004. There was a paper where they took people with early diabetes and they put them on a research ward and they had them eat their typical meals and they had them eat an ad lib sort of low carb Atkins under 20 total grams per day. Two same people, two different time periods, but they knew exactly what they were eating, because they lived there on this research ward. They didn't tell people how much protein to have. They said, eat until you're full from these foods on the low carb period of time. They got enough protein that, matching basically the height of that, so how tall are you? 35 grams for someone who's 6'5" or someone who's
Or muscle bound
5'6".
in different
Anyway,
age stage of life.
I'm still pretty convinced that the body figures it out. And if you get carbs out of the equation and you get your kind of brain out of the equation, don't listen to these other people.
Let's get your brain out of the equation.
Listen to your body. You're going to eat just as much protein as you need. And then if you eat a little extra, your body's going to get rid of it just fine. This is the classic, again, people telling you what to do. So they're making you feel like you need them. And then you want to be told what to do, meaning you don't want to make decisions on your own, when that's what we're trying to get out of. We're trying to help you learn how to do this on your own. We don't tell you that at first in the clinic. I keep that kind of a secret. And then you become in control of this wonderful body on your own without me telling you what to do. I don't think I answered the question.
No, I think you did. I think the answer is just listen to your body. And here's my experience and my understanding. So protein is kind of consistent whether you're low fat or low carb, because protein is kind of self-regulating almost, depending on your stage of life, your size, your body composition, your activity level, and everything else. I always go back to what the recommended formula is. And I think this is an accepted formula, that it's something like 1.5 to 2.25 grams of protein per kilogram of reference weight. For one
Lean
thing, who the crap knows what your reference weight is? That's your lean mass it's what you should weigh, whatever. But beyond that, even if we knew what our reference weight is,
Yeah.
1.5 to 2.25 grams is a 50% differential. So The answer is we don't know. So stop eating. To me, if I eat like protein heavy with that, some fat with it, I start to feel kind of, it's just too much. It's satisfying. And I know I need protein because I want to maintain my lean mass and the amino acids and protein and fat are required for the blah, blah, blah. But I always repeat what the protocol is. Keep it carbs 20 grams or fewer a day, total not net. If it's not on page 4, and I usually say link below, don't eat it. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Stop when you're satiated. There's no mention of grams or percentages of anything else. But you're right. Sometimes we want to be told what to do, because if I'm told what to do, then I have a framework and then I can follow it. Some of us are people pleasers or rule followers, or we always got our homework done, immediately after school, and we ask for more research projects. And some of us don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. But you're right, that symbiotic relationship, if you've got somebody that wants to tell you what to do, particularly if they want to sell you a way to find out what you should do, people will gobble it up.
So, of course, when you're consuming internet information from the internet, you want to consider the source, whether they're selling you something like that, but also if they're trying to buff up their muscles after exercising at the gym, and they're trying to, become, champion weightlifters.
Like me.
Oh, are you?
That was a joke. You're supposed to laugh.
Okay.
You usually say that.
Consider the source, and that might be appropriate in that situation. But if you're, just trying to be as healthy as you can, then I don't worry about how much protein. And I know it kind of, some people get kind of frustrated and then move on to the next internet expert until they find out how much to have. I don't know.
And actually, if you just eat good quality sources, in my experience, of fatty sources of protein, eat the fat that comes with the protein, but it's a nice poultry with the skin. And of course, the egg is the perfect thing. Good for us because we have 35 chickens. But that nature kind of packages it correctly. And then if we eat to satiety, and here's my pro tip for the day. Eat slowly. Eat slowly. For one thing, shoveling food into one's mouth is highly unattractive. But also, we need to give our brain time to get the signal from the leptin that you've had enough to eat. So if that signal takes 12 minutes and we've inhaled our plate of fuel in 8 minutes, we can tend to overeat. Just slowing down, putting the utensils down between bites, having a conversation with your partner if you have one. If you don't have a partner that you're eating with, I don't know, read an article from the New York Times or something.
There was a Bob Newhart episode, we should pull it out, where he said, chew your food 50 times or 20 or 35 before swallowing. So they're like, anyway, there was a phenomenon that was called Fletcherism back in the early 1900s, where the idea was to lose weight, you just chew your food more often. Just count it. Imagine 50 times.
That's also not attractive, but wouldn't want to. But maybe they were just onto something and they didn't even know why. For one thing, it slows you up.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
It slows you up. Okay, we do have. Let me see if I've got. Nope. Okay, so no more questions under the question thing, but we do have comments. Please do put them in the. Okay, Jackie writes, I don't have any questions anymore since I follow page 4 and the recipes from the 2 workshops from Adapt Your Life. The staff was amazing. The group support was so informative. And Go Keto with Casey, it's great. Oh, thank you. I'm 76. I've lost all the inflammation my body was holding onto and have lost almost 20 pounds. Thank you guys so much. And who says that it used to be not implicit, it was explicit. It was the message, particularly to women, after about age 45, and certainly after menopause, that if you haven't lost weight, yes, you're probably not gonna. It's not gonna happen, which is a terrible message to send to anybody. But it's never too late to be who you
Yeah.
might have been. Never, never. So you see everybody, Dr. Westman. Do you have any?
I get people ready for retirement. Get people in shape for retirement.
And what is it? How is it that here I am? I'm 64. Just applied for Medicare today.
Wow, congratulations.
Wow. So I honestly and true, and I know that other people are here. I feel better physically, emotionally, and mentally than I did 30 years ago. That's crazy. I was in my 30s then, but I was morbidly obese and I felt badly about myself. It's not like you're just fat and that's your problem. No, it's being fat and being embarrassed and feeling like a failure and feeling judged and feeling like you've lost 20 IQ points just because you're fat, which and then you try to lose the weight and it doesn't work and you assume it's you and you don't realize it was poor advice.
Yeah.
And that makes
It's
it
the food.
it's the food, man. So, and I was in the sauna today at the gym. Sauna is my favorite thing. If someone made me sit in a box 176 degrees, I would sue them. But I go into it and I love it. It's like dessert. And the facility, this beautiful gym, huge, is associated with my alma mater. So it's mostly students there. Now I'm going to tell you, I am smaller than I would say 30% of the students. I'm not just shorter, I'm smaller.
These are undergrads, college students.
Well, they are. They could be grad students, and there's some alum like I am, and some faculty, but mostly it's students. And so I was in the sauna.
UNCG.
Yes, and it's a beautiful, beautiful facility. I'm
That's
very fortunate.
University of North Carolina, Greensboro.
Greensboro, and these young ladies were sitting in the sauna. These were beautiful, large women. And they're sitting there in the sauna talking to each other about how they're just going to get their nutrition they're going to get it under control. So they're going to lay off the grease and they're going to lay off the fast food, which is good, although you can have fast food and peel off the stuff. But it was still going to be all about the bread and the good carbs and the brown rice and the sweet potatoes. And I sat there with my head my thing that was a little Go Keto with Casey thing. I thought, please look at my bosom and read what it says and ask me about it. But of course, I'm invisible because they didn't know I was sitting in the room with them because I'm middle-aged. No, I'm not even middle-aged. I'm an old woman. But at least they're trying. At least they're not wanting to be big. It's just trying to parcel through all the information and the advertising and the what do you call it, the when someone has a vested interests in the information that comes out. So, and I never brought it up. I told my husband, he said, why didn't you say something? I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going to do
Oh,
that.
yeah. So,
Kiss of death.
I mean, if asked, of
Answer.
course.
Of course.
But I think I first learned this from my brother, who was a marketing guy. He said, unsolicited advice is never welcome. I mean, no matter what you're talking about.
So, no matter what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Do you have Swedish genes by any chance? I mean, genetic heritage from Sweden, because the Swedes usually are the ones who are in the saunas.
Oh, no, I don't. I don't think so. Irish. The fucking Irish. Suzanne writes, hello, everyone from Raleigh, North Carolina. Oh, and Jean writes, my thumbs down was an error. I like your shirt, Doc, writes Suzanne, Adapt Your Life. Roseanne, thank you for answering.
Free information, Adapt Your Life YouTube channel.
Liz Pino writes, question. See, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make this a question. Watch this, Liz, because you didn't make it a question. Post this as a question because people coming afterwards can see these questions as well. Question. Need to take food with medications in the morning. How can I wait to eat when hungry? How much food do you need to eat with a medication?
Yeah, that's one of those untested. Um, I would love to have a student do a project to kind of look up. A pharmacy student would be perfect. Look up, where's the data that said you need to have food with the medicine. I think a lot of it is just kind of a makes sense. Don't want to irritate the stomach kind of thing. When now there's some things you shouldn't take near, like a thyroid medicine. If it says don't take near the meal, then that has some validity to it. But first of all, I'm skeptical about a lot of these medicines that they say take with food, just because there haven't been like randomized trials of with food, without food. And anyway, so a lot of it is just kind of the expert wisdom, which but anyway, just a little snack is usually enough.
Cube of cheese.
Cube of cheese, piece of pepperoni.
Mm.
If you were taking, say, a possibly ulcer generating pill, like a non-steroidal pain medicine every day for arthritis, or steroid medicine every day for an autoimmune disease, then I would take those more seriously and take it with more of a full meal. But the meal doesn't have to have carbs.
Ah, good
Right.
point. You can have a boiled egg, the perfect food.
Scrambled
Okay,
egg.
we do have a couple of questions. This is from Deborah Gillum. Hey, Deborah. We started our group, Steve and I, with the Santas last week, and know that several have joined this meeting after only a week on the program. Do you have any quick pointers for them?
Can you be more specific, Deborah? Like, so, of course, the first week or so, you might have what's called the keto adaptation, or headache and fatigue. Some people call it keto flu, but it's never really that serious or severe. So if you're not on blood pressure medicine or have a salt sensitive condition, you can take bouillon as a treatment for, or even as a preventative for those kinds of side effects. Now, I think kind of a summary: dive in, all in. Don't test here and there. It's kind of like pulling off a Band-Aid a little at a time. You want to just cut out all the carbs, go all in. Cravings and all will come down. Hunger should be gone within a day or two. You should really be in control. And if it's not happening that fast, or greatly getting better, then there's something's not quite right. But you don't have to measure ketones and all those things. And well, Casey, you have the sound bites of that are probably even the quicker way to say what to do.
You mean to follow the protocol?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's keep your carbs 20 grams or fewer a day, total not net. Net carbs is more carbs. If it's not on page 4, link below. Don't eat it. There's not a link below here.
Yeah.
Don't
So,
eat it. Don't.
so page 4 means phase 1, and your
Okay.
carb confusion.
Okay.
So I think the Santas, and Deborah, can you get on the screen and explain what you guys are doing?
And I'm going to apologize to you guys because the raise your hand thing, I know it's there. Deborah, if you're willing to come on screen, or if somebody can raise your hand to let me know that you want to be seen. So what'll happen is this. I will exit stage left, and you can come on screen. So maybe
If not, I mean, I think it's great. The idea is that a lot of the people who are the Santa Clauses are getting sick.
because they're supposed to be jelly bellies.
Yeah, so occupational hazard for the Santas, and so these guys decided to try to help by getting End Your Carb Confusion books, which is the branded version of page 4, into the hands of some of these folks. And so we want to support you as best we can, knowing that you can always still wear a fat suit or the voice will still be, there are still ways to be Santa. Although the way Steve mentioned and Deborah mentioned is that the children don't really care if Santa's large or not. I mean, right? They just want to be able to tell you what they want.
I want a PS5. Get me my PlayStation, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, I'm going to ask. I think there are a couple of people here that Judy, if you're still here for. Oh, okay. I want to come on stage. Thank you, whoever did that. That's one user. Let me see who it is. Deborah. Okay, so we're going to experiment. Deborah, drum roll, please. I'm going to click on you, and then I'm going to try to exit stage left.
Or it might be me.
No, you.
No.
I'm going to leave stage. Deborah. So I accepted, and I'm going to go stage left.
I think we're all going to be on here. There we go.
Hey, Deborah. Oh my gosh, you're like from the Poltergeist.
It looks like TikTok.
TikTok. Okay.
Oh, no.
Not sure that the video is working really great.
Oh, no.
Deborah, we'll give it a second to. We'll give it a second.
Unless she's having a seizure.
Yes, this is. I think I'm going to have a seizure.
Yes.
Okay, Deborah, thank you for trying that. We are going to.
Can you take it off and then take it
Yeah.
on again? See if it works. Oh, jeez.
Good try. Good try. Okay, and now
Oh,
it's
now you
just
got. Sorry.
just
Here,
we got
you
you.
can't-
Too much?
Yeah.
Too much you? It's not too much you. Everybody wants you, Dr.
You're
Westman.
seeing, I'm building a set for a course that we're going to film at the end of the month.
You're building a set?
Well, it's just,
You need stagecraft for your.
yeah,
Okay.
for
Okay.
the new diabetes course I'm working on.
Oh, good.
Oh.
Deborah, thank you for that experiment. If there's anyone else who is willing to come on stage, Judy, I would love for you to come on stage. Judy Tucker from Hopkinton, Iowa, is a farmer. They raise cattle, and she was trying to lose weight years ago. She was trying to be a vegan in cattle country, and of course, it didn't work. She started keto.
I don't think it works anywhere.
Okay, she lost under 50 pounds, and her doctor fired her because it was wacky. So, if anyone else can do that, that's cool. Let me see. Do we have another chat? One new message. Okay. Oh, here we go. Another user wants to try. Let's see who it is. This is like a little mystery to me. Okay. Deborah, we're going to try again. Okay, Deborah. Here we go. Here we go. Is it going to work? Okay, there we go. Now, Deborah.
It's better.
It's better. I can't hear you. Oh, you got a fancy headset and everything. Okay.
And of course, the cameras.
In the meantime, I think, Judy, did you agree to come on? I'm going to invite you on stage. If you don't want to take it, Deborah, you keep working on it. I would feel really bad if most major, technology platforms didn't have meltdowns like on a regular basis. So I've invited Judy.
It seems like the audio was good. The video is good.
The video was good. We just didn't have the audio. Invited. So, there was something I was going to ask you, went right out of my brain. Erg. So, anything you want to make sure that you get any words you want to get out? Do you want to promote upcoming course?
Oh, yeah. So we're in the last week of the Keto Made Simple Masterclass. It's gone really well. We periodically teach people online, and many of you I know already took it. KMS, we call it Keto Made Simple. We are now open for getting on the mailing list and enrollment, I think. Well, no, mailing list still, for a cooking class. So actually, Casey, if you'd like to take that with Chef Scott, I'll somehow work some magic. We'll get you on there. basically a Michelin level, Michelin. He's worked in Michelin star restaurants. Is giving an entire video course on how to prepare, what knives to get and all, and anyway, how to prepare meals. And of course, he wrote the End Your Carb Confusion cookbook, which has gotten great feedback already. But so yeah, that course will be open. The diabetes one I'm working on won't be open till the fall, so don't worry, you can't sign up for that. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about the other Adapt Your Life Academy courses. So be sure to check out the Adapt Your Life Academy.
Okay.
End of infomercial.
Okay. Hi from Michigan. I'm with Deb and the Santa group. Week 1, down 8 pounds.
Great.
And from
So,
Michigan, so I thought the Santa group was local. So this is a big Santa group?
yeah, it's nationwide.
That's so cool.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it's international or not.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So cool. So, okay, Judy, I'm going to accept Judy Tucker to the main stage. She's a superstar.
Woman's World, Judy.
Woman's World. Oh, look, we've got more hands raised. I'm digging this. Okay, here we go. Judy. Hello, Judy.
Hi.
And I'm going to excuse myself. I want to go to the wing. Let you
You
guys talk.
Oh, now you're like at the top,
I'm at the top.
little angel.
Oh. Judy, share your story, sweet girl.
I gotta shut my dishwasher off.
And I'll be
Oh, I can't hear it.
Hello, are you? I can barely see you. I could hear everything you were saying, but I couldn't get on there. Can you see me?
Yes.
Good enough. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I think for those who don't know your story, please,
Fill
bring it
them.
to speed.
I'll fill them in. Let's see. I'm 70 years old. Been heavy since probably 50 years, 50, 60 years. Yeah. Tried every diet known to man. Even did the weight loss surgery. That didn't work. Gained all my weight back. That was horrible. I don't suggest anybody do that ever. When I did this, it's just 5 years. I just went to the doctor yesterday and I've lost another 10 pounds. Yes, she said to keep doing whatever I'm doing. My blood work is perfect. I think one thing was a little elevated. It was like a liver thing. I don't know what that meant, but she didn't either. But I thought it was probably from my protein that I eat. And she's finally, this doctor is coming around, thank goodness. And I've showed her all your stuff, talked about you guys all the time, every time I go up there. And she said for a 70-year-old woman, losing 10 pounds after losing 150 pounds is doing pretty good. Pretty good. So
Is
our
that
doctor's doing good. My
is that the Midwest?
never returned.
I was just thinking of the language. It's the Midwest understatement kind of thing. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's good. Keep
Like
doing.
I remember I grew up in Wisconsin, and you had a little lunch, which meant this big,
Yeah, the big sack. Yeah, you went got that little lunch. So yeah,
little lunch.
yeah.
That's great. And the doctor doesn't want to know details about what you're doing, I bet.
Yes, she does. This one's a new doctor, just like you told me, just like Casey said, get a new doctor. So I did. Yes, and she's heavy. So and I have a thyroid problem, and she has a thyroid problem, and so she's learning from me. So I'm giving her all you're right on here. When I go in, she wants to see what I'm eating and how I'm eating. She wanted to know how I lost the 10 pounds. Well, I was listening to Casey and I cut back my butter I was frying my eggs with. So it was my consumption of butter this time. Usually it was peanut butter the first time. Now the butter got me this time. But I learned. So yeah, it wasn't the easiest process. I had my problems. I had edema really bad in my legs. I had they were swelling where I couldn't get control under it, and it had to do with the AFib. And off all of those medications is wonderful. I did have a little bout with a high blood pressure, but she said to work on it. And I was drinking too much fluids like coffee, tea. So knees, I had that bone on bone, and that's that's amazing because my husband actually went and found a lift out of an old Jets bus that you go around, pick up people and put them in the wheelchair and pick them up. He put it on my porch out here on our deck so that if in case I couldn't get up, that would be there. That's how bad I was.
Wow.
Plus, he put in a big ramp out front for me.
So he was preparing for you to become immobile.
Yeah, he was. And I was too because I couldn't get up 5 steps to get into my house.
And you're a farmer. Now,
And I'm a farmer. Yeah.
are you a farmer or a rancher? Or is there...
We farm.
You
We
farm, okay.
farm cattle. Yeah, we have beef cattle. We raise calves. We breed the cows and have baby calves every spring, and then we sell the calves.
I always talk about Judy. She's a patron of mine, so I know a little bit more about her. But whenever she's on a YouTube live stream and I see her, hello from Hopkinton, Iowa. She's a farmer. And so now you've lost another 10 pounds, Judy?
Yes.
160 pounds ago.
Yeah.
So I always say this. I'm so amazed at myself when I carry 25 pounds of chicken feed in a bucket up to the chicken yard, 25 pounds. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I ever go around with 25 extra pounds? And actually it's 100 extra pounds. I don't know how you functioned on a farm, Judy, 160 pounds ago.
I know. My husband would bring a ladder just so I can get on the tractor, so I could get off and haul, manure. We got to haul manure. And now I can just fly right up on that booker.
Wow.
I even would use the skid steer. You have to get in the front of it, and I would have to use that, and that was a chore because then after I'd get in, I'd have to back up the skid steer and move the ladder.
Gee whiz!
And I would just fit in the skid steer.
Gosh, it really is almost incomprehensible to me.
It is to me too when I look at myself, and I see people now that look at me and don't know me, and it's, I'll say hi, people that I've worked with, because I ran a cafe and a bar here in Hopkinton for years. So I've known everybody. We had a drive-in at one time where you'd come up with your ice cream, and I made blizzards. You'd think that's probably part of my heaviness. Yeah.
Well, Judy, thank you so much. Your story is beyond inspiring. And again, I think I'm really tough when I go out, and sometimes it was cold here. We need to haul some water for the chickens because the water. And then Judy will post, a video of them calving in a snowstorm. So they're helping the cow give birth to a calf, and it's a blizzard. So, you're a tough old bird, girl.
I am a tough old bird, I'll tell you. That's the funny part is I raised chickens too, and I got rid of them, and then the egg prices just came up. Isn't that sad?
Sad.
And now we live on eggs.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being involved in the woman's world issue, because I still hear people, when I go out and about, I kind of joke about Woman's World. It's not a peer-reviewed journal, but they say, well, Doc, that's where I learned about you. What is Woman's World?
I know. Excellent. And I'll tell you, in our small towns, those magazines were sold out in a minute.
And I have an autographed copy.
They didn't want to ask me because they thought I actually had cancer. It's a close-knit town. Yeah, so they thought that I was either I had cancer or I was doing drugs. Yeah. Nope, I just ate real food.
Real food.
Of my life, yes.
Well, thank you, Judy. It's always great to see you. And we're going to ask, we got a couple of other people that want to step on stage. So hold on. Bye, friend.
Thank you, my dear. Love you both.
And back at you. Okay, so this is working fairly well. Okay. Oh, yeah, because I'm awesome. So Jackie wants to join the main stage. We will give it a little moment. Drum roll. a moment. Technology, I will tell you, has not been my friend recently. Hey, Jackie. Can't hear you.
Yeah, it looks like the mute's on.
Okay, I'm going to try to unmute. Do you want to? I have to request of her to unmute. So you should get a pop-up that is asking you to unmute yourself. No?
Unmute this user. Hey, I could
Oh. So okay.
too.
Hello. Okay, Jackie, I'm going to let you take a step back. And also your camera's pointing down your hallway.
Yeah, be
So
careful.
this is the great thing about live TV, right? So Angie,
Oh, look.
This is what makes it real, folks. So we have invited Angie Ortega on screen. Hello. Hey, Angie.
Hi, how are you?
We can see and hear you.
Great. So thank you so much. This is my first meeting. I'm very excited. I actually heard about you guys from somebody else, and I reached out to Dr. Westman, and he forwarded me to Casey. So I'm new to Durham. I just relocated from San Diego. So I'm part of the Low Carb USA. And again, I saw you speak in August in San Diego at the conference there, Dr. Westman. So great job. I've been keto for about 5 years, kind of on and off with COVID was a little bit tough. I'm a stress eater. So I had a lot of health issues. I think most of what I've heard here before, I had lupus, I have a Hashimoto's, I have arthritis, again, just all sorts of migraines. And within weeks after starting keto, everything started going into remission. I have not had a migraine in 5 years. The only medication I take now is just my Synthroid, and I'm actually going down on that. I lost 60 pounds and have maintained it pretty much for the 5 years, and I feel amazing. So, and I've retired actually from the job I had in San Diego, and I just started working here, and I feel like I have tons of energy. I'm 54, and I'm looking forward to another, maybe good 10 years of work before I, think about retiring.
Great. Well, we had a recent case in the clinic. So sorry, we used to be at the Durham Hilton every month, and then they recently said, "Well, we want you to pay now." So no food, and you have to pay. So we need to work on the management a little bit. I think our friendly person maybe got replaced, but sorry, we don't meet face to face at the moment.
It's okay. This is great. Get to see everybody from all over the U.S. and elsewhere.
Well, and then the weather's not quite as nice as San Diego.
No.
Medical student on the rotation this month was with me one of the first days. We have another person whose lupus is gone, lost 100 pounds, documented by blood tests. And so I don't know if you have the double-stranded DNA documentation of it going away, but so this is how the grassroots medical stuff works: is we get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people with resolution of things, and then we write a study, get it published, and then it kind of snowball, or people can make Facebook groups on a theme. Like we met a young woman in Atlanta whose MS went away. Of course, the problem with MS is sometimes it goes away on its own, but she made a Facebook group last spring and had a couple hundred people in it by the fall. So anyway, this is how we just try to assemble information when people at the top are clueless about studying it, and yet we're trying to see just what can happen. So that's fantastic.
If I can ask, so Angie, you listed off 3 or 4 very serious and sometimes debilitating conditions.
Yeah.
Are they?
I actually forgot one. So it started when I was 8 years old with Hashimoto's. By the time I was 12, I developed something called ITP, thrombocytopenia, and I had my spleen removed when I was 15. So I don't have a spleen. I'm susceptible to, any infection. Lupus was diagnosed at 28. I had psoriasis kind of around 21. So pretty much, every couple of years I was
every
diagnosed with
organ.
another one.
You were just
Yep.
like everywhere. Am I correct in thinking that just about everything you listed could be classified as autoimmune? It's just different
Correct.
manifestations.
Absolutely.
And so my understanding is that glucose and insulin are inflammatory and just kind of triggers our bodies to fight itself. That's a simplistic way of putting it, but is that kind of accurate? If we're burning sugar, we have insulin, and it's not always, and some people talk about their glucose level. Well, I'm okay. My glucose level is here. And my thinking is, from what I've learned, is, well, it's because your insulin is up here. And so you're being medicated from the inside. And it's the analogy I draw is that, it's 100 degrees outside, and it's been 100 degrees outside because it's very hot summer. You're in Arizona, but you're okay. It's 72 degrees inside your house because your AC is keeping you cool. But you never go look at the AC unit. It's keeping you cool. It's medicating essentially the air temperature until finally your AC explodes. It's because, we've not done maintenance, and then we've asked too much of the AC unit, and Freon is everywhere. So the insulin turns our bodies against ourselves. I don't know why that would happen. Why would nature do that to us? But my understanding is that is what happens. Acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, eczema, arthritis. I'm sorry?
Psoriasis.
Psoriasis. So this is all our bodies telling us something's out of whack.
Yeah, the mechanism, of course, has never been so important to me. Just knowing that something's gone. It's kind of like there could be many mechanisms in the steps along the way. Well, one other one I've heard a lot about is the leaky gut idea. So that carbs create a leaky gut, so that some of the proteins get in, and your body thinks that these proteins are similar to your own, and then you start cross attacking these molecules. So the glucose and insulin, or it could be the carbs creating leaky gut, or a friend of mine years ago would say, or it could be just one of these gremlins in your stomach. No, I'm just kidding. So back in the medieval times, they'd say, you have a gremlin in your stomach. We need to get it out, right? But I don't know. I don't know that anyone knows the mechanism for the autoimmune issues yet, but they clearly do get better. I would say not in everyone, but in lots of people.
So as an aside, but it does fold in. So I'm signed up. I applied today for Medicare. I was really offended for a long time before I think, Medicare? Are you kidding me? I'm so youthful. Can't be. But I need to apply. So and I have a friend who actually handles this, because it is not for the faint of heart signing up for this stuff. One of the things he talked about, trying to figure out which plan to go on, because there's A and B and Advantage, etc. He said he used as an example. Now, for instance, if you have lupus, you could just count on, what is it, injections twice a year, and they're $4,000 per injection. And then he talked about all the, the out of pocket and the percentages. Just think about if you can solve issues with food, just the impact on the overall medical establishment. There's an avalanche of stuff waiting just from diabetes.
Yeah.
It's going to cripple things. But lupus was specifically, he brought it up like 5 times. Lupus is just a very debilitating thing, and you've got to treat it, and it's very expensive. So good on you for resolving it with food.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I never believed when people said, oh, you are what you eat. And I was given wrong medical advice by my doctor. Said, eat the whole grains. Don't eat any fat. And the grains, the whole grains made me sick to my stomach to the point of, almost throwing up. And
So-
surprise, surprise, that the minute I get away from the grains, I get better. So he was shocked. I did go back to him and he was incredibly impressed. The second visit, not the first one. The first one, he was still like,
Lightning
okay, that's nice. Thank you. See you in a couple of months. And yeah, he was shocked the second time because, and what are you doing? And he was taking notes and who do you follow? And
that's a good doctor.
He was very good.
Instead of being so ego involved,
Exactly.
that, wait a minute, you're supposed to be doing what I say, because a lot of us get pushback from our medical providers, and it says much more about them than it does about us.
Right.
But I always like to point out, when I saw the white coat video of Dr. Eric Westman 9+ years ago, one of the things that struck me was that he was describing doing this rotation or seeing a couple of veterans at the VA hospital he's doing, and more than one person said, I'm eating steak and butter, essentially. And he said, steak and eggs, I'm sorry. I was not so overtrained that I couldn't see what was going on in front of my very eyes. That is a medical provider who is not entrenched in their point of view. And that is, medicine is an art. And if you care about people, there's a whole lot going on there. So good on your doctor, because Judy from Hopkinton got fired by her obese doctor. Obese. Because, I can't support you if you do this. So she got a better doctor, different doctor.
Angie, what do you do for work?
I'm actually a chemical engineer. I work for the state writing air pollution control regulations.
A lot of engineers figure this out.
Exactly. I'm a spreadsheet gal.
And they become
I'm a researcher.
Because they have spreadsheets.
I have spreadsheets, many spreadsheets.
I'm sure the doctor cringed.
No, he was. Yeah, again, he was very, very supportive, and I was going for 35 years to the doctor every 4, 5, 6 months.
Wow.
Now I go once a year for my physical.
Jeez.
Just amazing.
Dr. Westman, why do you say that very often engineers get this?
Yeah, they just expect things to work. It's like, it seems, and you should be able to reason this out. And when you start getting the runaround from the doctor, well, this, then that, and then that, but why isn't it working? I don't know. It's like, so Ira Cummins is an engineer who put a lot of thought into this.
Right.
And then computer science people like Dave Feldman with the cholesterol code is a
engineer.
I think of computer engineer. Yeah. So it just seems like now some engineers can get a little too, how should I say, expecting that the body will work exactly like a machine. So you might get upset because the blood sugar is 101. Okay, it's close enough. So, yeah, there's just something about that analytical mind. I think it's expecting the things should follow a spreadsheet.
So problem, analysis, solution, implementation.
Right.
Yeah.
So and then the research and go back and see what the results are and try something else, right? A little trial and error, a little.
Well, congratulations, Angie. That is a fantastic story and inspirational, because these are not inconsequential things that you have overcome. So, and you said 5 years that you've been. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was 200 pounds. Shocking. I couldn't move.
Bless.
I was in pain on, narcotics for the pain.
And that leads to a whole other type of thing. I mean,
absolutely.
It really is a snowball thing. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
You so
Hope
much.
you'll come back.
I look forward to it. I will.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm really tickled with this. Getting people on stage. Let me see if I can. Okay, now I can come back on stage. Can I click on that? There we are. Okay, let me see. And we've got time. Here's another question in the Q&A place. Okay. So Deborah writes, no problem, but the Santas all have a copy of End Your Carb Confusion and are starting on phase 1.
Yes. Yeah. So phase 1 is really the same as page 4. And it keeps the carbs under 20 total carbs for the day. Remember, we follow total, not net. And gosh, if it says keto on it, avoid it.
Yeah, walk away.
There's all
It's
this
not.
keto junk food. Now, but my patients have sleuthed out. I joke that it's the cult of Costco, where I go to Costco. I have a friend who says, "Well, can I get it at Costco? If not, forget about it." So Cloud Bread is now available. There's a company called the Cloud Bread Company, and I think they will send you frozen. So I haven't seen these yet, but I've seen them online. Okay, and I had one husband-wife group come in, and she said, "Oh, they're great," and he said, "They're terrible." There's no accounting for whether you're going to like them or not, but they truly are low carb, and they don't say keto on it. That was my point. That right now, if it says keto, do not have it.
And this is interesting. You've now brought up the second product and that I've heard in a week that does not use the tag that keto. Somebody shared with me that in the store they saw a jar of ground pork rinds, but it didn't say keto. So this to me, hopefully, and I hope this is the case, keto is everything has its season, right? For a while it was paleo, for a long time it was low fat. Maybe they'll just quit doing that, because as Dr. Westman says, if it says keto on the package, it's not.
Well, but now when pressed, so I think there's a over-the-counter keto, and then there's prescription keto. So if I have time to explain that,
You have all the time you want, sweetheart.
Well, no, but in a patient. In a clinic, so that keto can work for a lot of people using those products. But you see, the thing is, they don't really need keto. So people who really need that level of carb restriction like that can't do over-the-counter keto. They think they're doing keto, and it doesn't work for them. If you go to total carbs, not net, and as you said very quickly, net carbs just means more carbs. So don't use the net carb thing, and stay to the foods on the list. And pretty much I can guarantee it's going to work. So that this is for the Santas or anyone who's just starting. Have no doubt that it's going to work. It's been studied up and down, left in all different countries, all different types of ethnicities. And so it will work, but you have to be strict and you have to follow it. And it means 24/7, 7 days a week. You wouldn't go to the doctor and say, "Doc, you prescribed me that pill to take 4 times a day, 7 days a week. Can I take it 6 days a week? Or can I take that? You said I should take the pill 4 times a day. Can I just take it 2 times a day?" No. So this is like a prescription. Good food is your medicine. So you want to follow it all day long, until you reach your goal, and have no worry that it'll work or not, because it will.
Part of the challenge, one of the many challenges of this, is it's challenging not because it's complicated and not because it's truly difficult. It's because we have to change behavior, which is the hardest thing in the world to change. If we're humans, squirrels don't need to change their behavior. They don't make decisions in their worst interest, right? They don't knowingly run in front of a car thinking that they won't get run over. They might get run over, but they're doing something else out of instinct. We make poor decisions that are against our own best interests all the time in all stages of our life. One of the states of mind that I find that many of us go through is trying to figure out how much we could get away with. And this is where the keto products come in. and the recipes for the fake whatchamacallits, you know, and you know, can I eat my 20 carbs in a Chips Ahoy cookie? Absolutely. There is no nutrition and you'll become malnourished. But yeah, if you want to do that and become very sick, yeah. What do you say? You can make anything low carb by breaking it in half. You know, but that's not the point. The point is not to figure out how to have a Chips Ahoy cookie.
Right.
The point is to figure out how to come off 7 medications like Judy did.
Yeah.
And how to be healthy and how to be strong and how to feel better at 64 than you did at 34. This whole, what can I get away with? You know, that, you know, you enter a marriage like that, it's not going to end well.
But, you know, it was Dr. Tarman and then these days with sugar processed food addiction as a theme, that in our lifetime, we have been in a hurricane, as a a terrible food storm. I mean, Kelly Brownell, who's an emeritus professor here at Duke, calls it the toxic environment. So that all we've known in our lives is the sugar, the Halloween candy, the Chips Ahoy, oh, those Girl Scout cookies, they're coming by, you know, yeah, got to have my Thin Mints, you know. Well, we grew up in an era where everything's messed up.
Everything is messed up.
Everything's messed up.
Let's just say it. Food-wise.
Food-wise, yeah.
Everything's messed up.
And don't even get me going with that shape what was that shape that my kids grew up thinking it was healthy eating? It was a pyramid. No, don't say it. Pyramid, food pyramid.
Oh, the food pyramid, the shape.
Don't say it.
Don't say it. Yeah, but this is the case. And the problem is, let's just face it. Let's just come right out and say it. It's delicious. There is a combination of carbs and fat is delicious. Carbs meaning sugar. Sugar to fat equals I love you. And whether you want to say that you're addicted to it or it fires off the dopamine things, what's your point? If it's making you fat and sick and unhappy and unhealthy, whether you want to call yourself addicted or not, what do you say to a heroin addict? You got to lay off the heroin.
But, you know, on TV recently, remember some people still have TV. I'm one of the only ones with cable in my family. It's okay. Well, but I do see ads. The beverage committee or associations are putting out ads now saying that 60% of beverages now have no sugar. So they're marketing the fact that the sugar is going down in the beverages, which is good. No, I mean it's a start. But
so it's 40% sugar.
Of all beverages, 60% without sugar. But imagine when we were kids, everyone was smoking.
Oh yes,
everyone was smoking, and
there was only Coke, not Diet Coke.
Yeah, but
well, I'm older than you are.
Can you imagine maybe the next generation will really know that sugar is bad? And they'll say, I can't believe we drank. My parents.
You're absolutely right. Everyone in my family, I never smoked. I don't know why. Everyone in my large family smoked. And it was just a given. Watch an episode of Mad Men, for goodness sake. But you're right.
I think it can change.
Things have changed. Okay. Do you know what the rule of thumb is? Where that phrase came from? The rule of thumb.
No.
It's English common law. That a man could beat his wife with a stick that was as thick as his thumb.
Oh, jeez.
No. No, it's the truth. So things can change. Now, granted, there are still men that beat their wives. But that was an accepted thing. Beat your wife with something. Don't make it thicker than your thumb, man. That'd just be rude.
Well, those English people, they also had a yard was the length of the king's arm. And of course, that would change every time there was a new king.
New king. No wonder all the measurements are screwed up. So the behavior is what we need to change. But feelings follow behavior. if we can stop eating, and I struggled with this. I knew since 1977, longer than 30 years, that low carb worked for me. Atkins Diet Revolution, got it in 1977, lost the 13 pounds I'd put on in the first 2 years of college, threw the book away. And I tried again in the early 2000s when it was kind of a resurgence, right? Lost about, 20, 25 pounds, had a bad day. Life came at me. And I ate the bagel, which led to more bagels, which led to mashed potatoes, which led to tequila. Didn't solve my problem that I was having because of the bad day. But the behavior, feelings follow behavior. I laid off the carbs because this doctor in a white coat said, if you just stop eating the carbs, keep it low, your appetite will go away and you won't have to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. So I stopped. I was at that point. So I stopped eating carbs the next time I put food in my mouth. After about a week, my joint pain resolved. I wasn't thinking about tortilla chips that I thought I could. I would say out loud, I can't give up tortilla chips for the rest of my life. What are you, nuts? So my behavior changed. Then my feelings changed. This can happen. It's challenging. There are a lot of outside forces that want us to eat Taco Bell and Dunkin' Donuts. My Lord, they're everywhere. You go to the gas station, there's a KFC and a Taco Bell. You go to the university where I go. It used to be the crappy food hall. Now it's a fast food court. It's everywhere, but we can do it. Next time you eat, lay off the carbs. And then you hear from people like Jackie and Judy. Oh my gosh, we got lots of comments. I'm sorry, I turned things off. It can happen. If Judy Tucker can lose 160 pounds in the last 5 years, you can do this. And if I can do this, you can do this. So I want to make sure that we get, because we're coming close up on time. So glad to meet you on Crowdcast, right? Suzanne Botts. And Suzanne's awesome. Joseph, the Santa group has folks from California, Canada, the Midwest. Santa really gets around. Great job. Angie writes, Ange. Hi, Suzanne, writes Judy. Ange, hi, Judy. Did you say you cut out the butter and that helped you lose the 10 pounds? I thought eating good fats were good on keto. Maybe I got it mixed up. I'll let Dr. Westman do this, but butter is not unlimited on page 4. Dairy and non-starchy vegetables are limited.
Yeah.
While we don't count calories, calories count.
Yeah. So the method we teach, I didn't create. I learned it from doctors in 1970 to 2000, and Dr. Atkins and Jackie Everstein had a method. The cream cheese, mayonnaise, oils, butter section has limits to it. So, and then that can change over time. So let's say you're down 150 pounds from where you were. You can't assume that you're going to eat the same amount. You're going to need less food even. So you may need to tweak the diet. People will say, well, I haven't changed anything. And I say, yeah, I know. I need you to change. And I know please don't get me wrong. I say it with the best bedside manner that
no one worries that you're being mean ever. As a matter of fact, I was castigated for being mean to you. Casey seems to get off on being mean to sweet Dr. Westman.
That's okay.
I actually got that feedback.
Well, sometimes you are mean, but that's okay. That's why I pay you the big bucks. Which means, there's no bucks here. But yeah, so at the beginning, don't worry too much about the amount that you're using if it's working for you. That's the other thing, is that if someone comes back and, Doc, I'm having 3 tablespoons of cream and you only said 2. And I say, well, but you're losing 10 pounds a month. It's working. I know, but I'm not doing what you said. I said, well, that's okay. That's good. I don't go to bed thinking, they didn't follow 2 tablespoons. I go to bed thinking, why didn't it work? So there's individual variability, and what we do is try to set you in the right course, and then you may have to, do a little tacking, course correction for your own body and situation.
And Ange writes, good advice, maybe need less food now. We grow smaller, which is an oxymoron, and we do, if we're lucky, get older. So things change as our age advances, and we have different nutrition requirements. It's just the way it is. None of us do what we did when we were 20. I know I don't. So apparently Dr. Westman can attest to that as well. Well, it is 8:00. Time for us to wrap up. Thank you, everyone.
The time has flown.
It has flown. It's always good when you're with good company. Do you have any parting comments or?
Well, just, if you don't know about the YouTube channel, Adapt Your Life, I have hundreds of videos there. And often you can just search a topic, pooping, constipation, or muscle cramps, things like that. And then check out Adapt Your Life Academy. You have to pay a little bit for those courses. I just want to let you know up front, but we try to keep it as inexpensive as possible to reach as many people. I'm teaching more people online now than I am face-to-face, which is really kind of cool. It's what Glenn Finkel said years ago. He said, Doc, you're doing a great job. How many of you taught? Well, thousands. And he said, have you heard of the internet? You might be able to treat tens of thousands or even more. And so we're slowly getting to that level, which is exciting. It's great to help so many people, isn't it?
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, man. We will see you next time. God willing, the creek don't rise. And thank you, everyone, for showing up in the great interaction and talking to each other. And first Tuesday of the month in March. We'll see you. Bye.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you.